Good morning, East Texas. It's time to rise and shine with the sun. The Grand Saline sun. Right here on VZTV. Grab your coffee and come join the fun.
Well, guys, I mean, here we are for another day of the VZTV morning show, and I hope y'all are liking that intro. I actually did that intro a long time ago. I still got my shades up on my head. Oh, Ryan over there, he decided he was gonna stare into the sun like a kindergartner.
Well, I don't want these Democrat folks trying to burn me up with their stares over here.
And of course, he goes and pops the bubble. Yes, we have some Democrat guests in the house, but as I've always said, this platform was made for the conversation, and so that sort of is a good segue into my smoke signals. Go ahead, Corbin. Let's roll the smoke signals.
There.
All righty. Well, here we are on smoke signals, and that's where I sort of send up my warning signals of the day. You know, some shows call it a monologue. When I first did a couple episodes, I called it a BERTologue, but I realized how stupid that sounded, and I'm trying to sound educated. So here we are, and my monologue today is going to be communication. You know, what was that you said that feller said to you? Words mean something.
Yes,
and
words mean things.
And that is something that this really was about. And that I'd already written it last night, and so when you said that, it really rang in my head. I don't know if you saw my eyes sort of go like that right there. But when I started this, and of course, we're in a very red county, and so the fact that Miss EDIE is actually on the precinct 2 ballot, it still goes by some people unescaped. They think James Cooley's already won it because he took the primary. And I mean, if we look at our history, that is sort of true. But I wanted to come to you and say, would that be true if the conversation were being heard on both sides? And when I say heard, I'm not saying spoken. I'm saying being heard on both sides. When we sit down and we listen, and when we sit down and we communicate and we hear things between each other, we begin to understand. When we begin to understand, then we begin to empathize, sympathize, and then we can all come up with a common goal. He brought up a good point also about this movie called Idiocracy, and I've been saying for years that if we do not stop and take notice of where we are, grade ourselves as a society, we will find ourselves in idiocracy, except for the sad fact is we will never make it to the point of watering our crops with Gatorade because we will die. So if we do not want to be a country, and mind you this, the weaker we get, the vipers are outside the pit, just looking and waiting. So if you do not think we cannot fall below being the superpower of this nation, just remember this. If you have a household that does not communicate, you have a broken house. You have a violent house, you have a torn house, and you have a house without a common goal. Same thing goes on the grander scale of our nation. So let us stop looking at each other, labeling each other, judging each other, and let's start listening and understanding each other. And hey, if I'm wrong, but if not, let's see where it goes from there. That's today's smoke signals. Thank y'all for tuning into that. Now we're going to wrap it on into the show here. Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Why Joe cool today?
Well, it doesn't really have anything to do with our special guest staring holes through me. It was a shop mishap, not really a mishap. I was welding nuts on head bolts in my son's truck.
You said nuts.
Yeah, I did. And there's no room for a welding mask, so it's close your eyes. And anyways, to make a long story short, I might have sunburned my eyes just a little bit.
Well, we just wanted to let everybody know that he has not turned cool Modi overnight. There was a purpose for the shades.
Well, I did see Corbin yesterday with his shades on, and I won't lie, I was a little bit jealous.
It did sort of set a tone, didn't it?
It really did. He was like the coolest producer ever with those shades on.
And
not as cool as Katie, but he was getting there.
Right, exactly. Well, you know, the thing about it is I guess for the sports guy, it looks extra cool, though.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it looked totally awesome. And also, we want to welcome back to the couch Miss EDIE Booth. How you doing, Miss EDIE?
I'm good.
We want to thank you for returning. I know that last time we had a blast with you on the channel. We were really rushed with the last segment. Well, this time, good news is we're not stacking segments. We're sort of holding hands and going all the way through from hour one all the way to the end. And so we're going to have Miss Edie Booth for 2 hours and also Mr. Keenen Colbert.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming on the show. And
Pleasure to be here.
First time on VZTV. So what do you think about the setup?
I think it's wonderful. I'm happy to be here. I like you in your smoke signal. You talked about communication, which is all obviously very important to me, and it's a key pillar in what I'm doing right now, communicating, and part of that is bridging gaps where people might think you don't need to bridge gaps. I'm trying to build bridges, not walls, and Van Zandt, like you said, very Republican leaning, very red leaning. And yet it seems like every time that I come here, I have a pleasant, decent, and meaningful conversation with folks that I meet about issues that matter. And one thing that I do, at least for the way that I want to run my campaign, is like, if we're not talking about the things that affect the everyday person, if we're not talking about issues respectfully, I'm really not that interested. I'm not doing this for fun. I'm not doing this just to put senator next to my name. I've earned enough titles. I have earned enough accolades in my life to feel like an accomplished man. What I'm doing now is for the people, whether they like me or not, whether they agree with me or not, whether they want to hang out with me or not. But one thing that we can all agree on is, like, we as a society, as a state, as a county or a country need to move forward to make the American dream more accessible and like well within reach for not just the people now, but for the next generation coming up. But it's not, you don't just snap your fingers like that and just make it happen, right? You have to build bridges. You have to have these conversations, and most importantly, you have to get to work, right? So like when you communicate, one of the things that made me most excited about coming here is like, I don't think that anybody that would watch this show would think like that Keenen Colbert's going to be here. Or I don't think that anybody that lives in Van Zandt County would think that Keenen Colbert has a chance of earning votes in Van Zandt, but they don't know me. You don't know what I actually stand for. A lot of people haven't heard from me. So
to be fair, we snuck you in. I mean, we're very careful, very careful.
But I will say this, and hats off to you. You were at the People's Debate as well, which most certainly wasn't friendly territory, and you knew that going in. But you did mention you've earned enough honors in your life and stuff like that. We know you served our country, so go ahead and let's tell people a little bit about your background, but let's definitely recognize your service to this country, because where you sit, it's folded right up there on top of the thing. But when we don't have a fourth guest in here, we have a spot for the fallen soldier. And like I say every day, if you left it all on the battlefield, you deserve a seat at the table every time we meet. And if we don't have a fourth person, and I'm glad to know that it's a vet that is sitting in that spot. So,
and I have a huge respect for you doing that, man, because like it's something that I would imagine a civilian would find kind of easy to talk about, or easy to say thank you for your service to a veteran without knowing the ins and outs of what some of us have done. And like many veterans have vastly different experiences, even within the same branch. For those that don't know, I was a Marine. I enlisted June 4th of 2012. That was the day, I'll never forget it. That was the day I put my shoes on those yellow footprints. And I was enlisted. I served as an infantry mortarman for my first 4 years. I was also going to college while I was enlisted. And about 3 weeks after I graduated college, I found myself in basic training once again to commission as an officer. So my last 4 years, I was a commissioned officer, and I served as a logistician. I was a logistics officer. It's a code 0402. So 4 years enlisted infantry, 4 years a commissioned officer as a logistician. I got out March 17th of 2021, and that I started my transition into the civilian world. And one of the things that stood out to me the most, and a lot of veterans don't they don't effectively communicate many of the challenges that veterans face in that transitional phase. But one thing that I really noticed, and I know that many vets can agree with me with, is like the stark contrast between being in a community of many like-minded individuals that are focused on accomplishing one goal, and then going to what feels like a world of chaos where everybody's in it for themselves, and it's just, you know, go out and figure it out. The thing that brings veterans and troops, like active duty troops, together around the most is like they are all pulling in the same direction. They're all trying to accomplish the same goal. They all know their part to play. They're all working as a team. And then you get into the civilian world, and it's infighting everywhere, and no one's communicating.
Yeah, it's counterproductive.
Yeah, and like, and again, it goes to that point of communicating, where it's like, sometimes it's like, what are we talking about? And even in Democratic spaces, sometimes I have to correct Democratic language when they talk about, you know, the Republicans as if they're some sort of enemy. And I'm like, look, like it or not, we're Texans, right? You're no more or less Texan than I am, and maybe we just see the same issue differently. But if you're not even like trying to extend your hand, or, you know, extend, you know, yourself to be quote unquote across the aisle or have that conversation, you might be, your heart might be in the right place on one side or the other, but you might be causing more harm than good, because you're not actually addressing the grievance of some people that might think differently than you.
Right. And of course, as we know, if we don't address the grievances, they become infected. And of course, when that, you know, we see the separation that we see today. And what would happen, I'm just going to throw a hypothetical out there. Let's say our nation or a battalion in the military. Mm-hmm. How effective would that battalion be if the same attitude were transplanted into a fighting unit?
It'd be completely ineffective. You wouldn't be able to deploy. You wouldn't meet any of your training objectives.
Like, wouldn't even be able to get out the door.
No,
you wouldn't be. And this is coming from a guy that has been the guy that is on, you know, checking the marks on that checklist for whether or not a MEU is ready to go or not. I've done a lot of things in my time in uniform as a Marine. I was literally at our nation's border in 2019 between the U.S. and Mexico, reinforcing Border Patrol. I have the pictures and the challenge coins to prove it. I have deployed overseas. I've done many of these things. If you took the infighting attitude or the poor communicative attitude that you see out in the civilian world into the armed forces, you'd be a laughing stock. You'd be an embarrassment.
We wouldn't be the superpower we are today.
Well, yeah. So one thing about the military, it's very structured. So
incredibly structured.
Yeah. So that communication is a lot of times, I mean, I don't know, I'm just making this assumption, but from an outside looking in, it appears to be one-way communication, and you're going to do this, following orders essentially. But that's how they maintain their structure, correct?
Kind of. I think that, and this is from my perspective, because I've been on the follower side and I've been on the leadership side. Like, I started as a private first class, and I got out just shy of pinning captain. I was selected for captain, but I got out because at that time I didn't care. There is, from the followership side, sure, do what you're told. Trust that the people that are appointed over you know what they're doing, and they're telling you what they're telling you for a reason. On the leadership side, I can tell you that from personal experience, my biggest priority anytime I was setting up an exercise or briefing an order is by the time I'm done, I don't want anyone to ask me why, because I've explained everything already.
Right.
Like, if you're paying attention, by the time I'm done, you shouldn't have any questions about what we're doing, where we're going, or why we're doing it, because I told you. So the onus is really on the leader to say, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing it. Does everybody understand? Because, it's the most important part about communication, I believe in decentralized leadership, right? Like, I issue the plan, and ideally, once I'm done issuing that plan, I should be the least important part about the execution of that plan. because if I'm still central to the execution, what happens if something happens to me? Then what's everybody going to do? Now you're
designated workers.
exactly.
Carry it
But
out,
if
'cause you're
everybody
all
knows the
one
plan
role.
and the purpose and the method and the end state and all of these things, now if anything happens to me, we're still operating equally as effectively. So my goal as a leader is to communicate so well to where I'm essentially useless. I'm just a net positive for being there and being able to adjust the plan if needed, but I shouldn't have to. And I've practiced this in training exercises, even in uniform, is to say, like, no matter what happens, I'm not going to touch my radio because I want to see how well my Marines can execute. No matter what curveball is thrown at us, I'm going to just sit here and see if they can fend for themselves. And it's always proved beneficial. It took training to get there, but it like that principle of being an effective communicator and telling everybody what the plan is and giving them their why, that's what makes them lethal. If you took that principle of infighting and communication in the civilian world now into the military, like I said, you wouldn't be able to get anything done. The enemy could take out the most pivotal person that they find, and then it just crumbles. And you can't have that.
Makes sense. Those are very good points. Real quickly, we've kind of alluded to it, but we've never really came right out. What are you running for?
I'm running for state senator of District 2. So it covers a small sliver of Collin County. It's Kaufman County. It's Rockwall County, Navarro County, obviously here in Van Zant County, and about half of Ellis County. It's an odd shaped gerrymandered in my opinion, but that's okay. But I'm still going to go around and shake hands and meet people and ask them what's important to them. So yeah, that's what I'm running for.
Currently occupied by Bob Hall.
Yes, ma'am. Currently occupied by Bob Hall. He's been in office for, I want to say, about 11 years now.
Something like that.
He's been in office for a long time. I do know that.
Yeah,
It's been a long time.
Yes.
Yeah, he come into office when I was still green back in my reporter days and running the sports beat. I remember when he was running because he didn't win his first go around, if I'm not mistaken, and he won his second go around. And so he's been a part of my beat for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
He's been on this show as well. One of his hot topics is the game rooms, which we will discuss here after we do the weather and we do the break and we toss back. I don't know if y'all have noticed, Miss Katie was under the weather today, so she's not on the mic, she's not on the board back there, but we'll still have sports with Corbin. We're still going to have weather, and we will do all that at the top of the hour. We're going to bypass the bottom of the hour because we want to give our guest here, as much time as possible. Plus, Mr. Keenen's running for a big office, and we don't want him to be restricted by anything such as time.
It depends. It depends. Towards the end, we might be trying to restrict him.
Well, you know what? Who knows? He may become a disciple for the Democrats out here, and he may become the Pied Piper.
We might make him a Republican before we're done.
Well,
We'll see how it goes.
I'm not going to allow that.
he made a comment a while ago. What was it your friend said to you when you told him you were going to run for office? Something about why don't you run as a Republican?
Oh yeah. I got a question very recently. I was at Highland Springs in Collin County. I had a full hour to speak to the community up there, but I wanted to keep a short little speech so we could answer, so I can open the floor for questions. I love questions because I'm not a polished, stick to the script kind of candidate. This is my campaign. The most important thing I need to be doing is listening to what the people care about. And the first question that came out of the audience was, why aren't you running as a Republican? And I was like, great question. And I'll tell you guys what I told them, because you've seen me before at Republican spaces where you would think I'm largely not welcome. Come to find out that's not true. Actually, Cooley and I had a good conversation afterwards, and I called him after that. He's also a veteran, I'm a veteran. We had plenty to talk about. We're not going to agree on many things, but it's fine.
James Cooley sees people for people.
He does.
And James has been on our show multiple times. And one thing I wanted to bring up, this is how veteran heavy appreciative we are. Every Thursday we have John Ring come on our show he also runs Wood County now over there, but he does both veteran news because he walked from East Coast to West Coast for walkforvets.org.
Good.
And that's how I met him on that. He and I become buddies. So Thursday, be sure and tune in. He updates everybody on different events that are going on, supporting veteran affairs, and of course he's like I said, if it's anything to do veteran, then he knows about it, and of course he also brings our Wood County news. So I tell everybody we wouldn't be here. Me and Ryan, we're just idiots.
Yeah, we're just filling space. But
Exactly. If it wasn't for the people that put the boot print on the battlefield, we wouldn't be able to be here and be idiots. So
James Cooley is a really good segue into Miss Edie Booth over here.
yes, speaking of,
I like James a lot.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what you're running for, and just give us a
I'm running
little rundown.
for precinct commissioner for precinct 2, and right now I'm the best candidate.
Take that, James.
Hey,
Take that.
speak your truth. If that's what
Hey, James ain't
you
here.
gotta stand on it.
Yeah, James ain't here. It's okay. We can go after him.
Well, I hope you'll have us both back where we can.
the mic is always open, as I've told you multiple times.
yeah.
And like I said on the show last time, when she and I get on the phone, we talk for hours. You know, we generally say, hey, we've got chores to do. We better get off the phone so we can get them done. And it's sort of like with you and you and I talked the other day, first time I'd spoken with you, and we talked for quite a while. And I mean, and that's back to the smoke signals. You know, I believe that the base
Communication.
we go back down. I named it smoke signals not just because I'm from Grand Saline and it was sort of throwback to some of the older articles that were put in the paper, but that was our first line of communication back in the day. They would send up smoke signals and that would alert people down the path or whatever. I believe if we start giving smoke signals now, maybe future generations down the way will sit there and say, hey, this is how we need to go it, because I've always said, if you ask anybody in the grocery store, do you trust the politicians in the state and national houses?
They probably say no.
They'll tell you no. Across the board, no, I don't. And yet we go and we lay our livelihoods in their laps, revote them in. And I believe if we get down here at the local level, at the city councils, at the commissioners' courts, at the District 2s and stuff like that represent us in this area, and we start putting homegrown people in office, then maybe as they grow and mature into the state and national leaders, they will take that homegrown value with them.
Sure.
And
Bert, is it possible that people might misconstrue the smoke signal? Just, they might misconstrue that as just a couple idiots starting a hellacious fire somewhere?
well, when you're trying to get saved off of an island, you don't care what the message says. You're just hoping the guy in the air sees it. So maybe that's sort of my, let's keep it simple. I'm not talking Morse code.
Right.
Look for the smoke, baby.
Okay, Edie, tell us a little bit about you and your background.
So I got smoke signals when I was little bitty. I started on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota, about an hour from Standing Rock. And I was remembering this the other day. When I hear somebody talk about hair of the dog, it makes me remember the smell of burning dog hair, because that was what was for dinner
Wow.
2 blocks back. And I wasn't in that group, but I ended up being the littlest kid in my group. So I got matched up with the littlest kid in the Sioux group, and we had to fight it out in the snow. And it's weird.
Where are you from?
That's what I was thinking the other day. I kept telling you, I'm just a normal person.
So,
I'm just a normal person.
Edie and I are starting to identify.
We are all
Y'all were just a border
individuals,
away from
and-
each other.
And we've got different backgrounds, and we come up learning how to get along with everybody because we already have been there and seen some different things and some different cultures. So I went. My dad was Department of Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs. So we moved around a lot, and the first part was on Indian reservations, and I got a whole bunch of stories. I could spend 2 hours telling you about that, but.
It's funny. This show is about how long? How long's this show?
Yeah. So where I grew up at was between the Blood Indian Reservation and the Blackfoot Reservation. And in fact, we had deeded Blood Indian Reservation in the middle of our ranch. They had four sections deeded out. So yeah, I could.
So did y'all have a trading post? That was quite a thing with people who were mixed in among.
No, we had a lot of chaos.
Oh yeah.
A lot of chaos. It was crazy. But it's for another show.
Yeah.
We don't
Well,
even need to get into that.
One of my early memories was some big boys had been hitting the firewater, pounding on the doors, and there was 3 little girls in the house because my dad and mom had gone out to try to calm things down. And
Yeah, people don't understand the cultural difference. When we say cultural difference, are the Native American people, at least the ones that I know of, the Blackfoot in the blood, it's not a difference. It's a different world.
it is
Period.
a different world.
And when you step into that, when you go onto the reservation, like you've definitely left Kansas at that point. Like you were in there's no mistaking that you're in a different place, and it can be a little scary.
You know what? It really probably helped me become really independent, because then as I grew up, I don't know, I did a bunch of stuff, and I wasn't normal as far as going through my school. I finished a BA in 3 years. Who does that? I mean, it's like I wanted to just be done with it, so I went to school through the summers and all, just straight on through till I got that. And then we were in Southern California. My husband and I were teaching in Southern California, and as soon as I finished my master's degree, which I did at the same, I was an overachiever.
I'm getting that.
So I finished my master's while I was teaching, and when I finished that, I asked him. We were sitting out in front of the college bookstore, and there was this book with a big sailboat on it, and I said, what did you always want to do? And what was your dream when you were growing up? When you were a little kid, what was the really neat thing? And he said, well, I read a lot of Jack London, and I always thought I would want to sail. And I said, okay, you can do that. You want to do that? Let's do that. So we learned to sail. We found what kind of boat we wanted. We made one really horrible, rough trip up to San Francisco because we were afraid to leave land, the sight of land.
Right.
Land is the enemy of the sailor. It was rough. I mean, you don't want to be close to land. You want to be
sailing out in the...
Yeah, you want to be out in the Pacific.
My wife always says no when I'm like, hey, I kind of want to do this. She's like, no. Edie's like, let's go do this.
Get her done.
So we did. We went and did it. So once we'd learned how to do it and everything, my husband learned how to navigate, and he was so insistent that I should learn to navigate in case he should go overboard or something like that. And I got up to a certain point in the book, and I said, just mark the book. If you go overboard, I'll finish learning the math.
Right.
Trial by fire.
Yeah. But we did fine. We sailed to Hawaii and among all the different islands, and then we sailed to the South Pacific to Tahiti and the Tuamotu Islands and Bora Bora, and just fantastic
That's
stuff.
amazing.
That it sounds adventuresome, but it's pretty boring. It took us 25 days to get to the big island of Hawaii from the Southern California coast.
Right.
And so I'd have 2 or 3 books going all the time. But then the moments where it's exciting, it's really exciting.
We did.
How much do you want me to tell? I got some great ones. How much do you want to tell?
Well, we are literally going to be limited for time, and I want y'all to talk about the issues, what's going to be on the ballot. Now, we're going to definitely be having these conversations down the road. You're local, so we can have you on as much.
I'll come back.
I definitely want to hear the sailing stories, because those to me are really interesting, because what come to my mind when you said there was a lot of boring times, but there was, when it's exciting, you take that journey for the exciting times, you endure the boring times. Same thing with the road trip with the family.
It's one big circle.
Uh-huh.
Just one big circle, and just you and the moon and the sun and just you and big circle of water.
But and of course, my mind is always working on an analogy. And when you said that land was your worst enemy, sometimes I think that, because like my son was a dirt track driver, And I used to tell him, drive beyond the nose of your car. If you drive up out there at the corner, you see what happens before you get there. And he started at 7 years old, so his race car had more nose jobs than Dolly Parton did. I mean, he could not get he couldn't go beyond the corner. And then I finally told him, I said, boy, one more time and we ain't building another bumper. I said, so that first year he bent everything but the front bumper, but we made it through the rest of the year with our radiator intact.
Yeah, look for the big picture.
Exactly. You get out bigger, and that's where I always sort of stand out. You've heard me say this how many times, Ryan, when I say I'm a big picture guy. I look at everything from, I buy corn seed. I don't take that pack of corn seeds and go at the house and boil those up and have 5 kernels of corn for supper. I go put them in the dirt, and I know that I'm going to have stalks of corn later. And unfortunately, I feel a lot of our modern legislation is sort of, we got the land in sight, and we're getting beat up because of that. We're working our rudders to death and all this stuff because we're not looking big picture enough. And that's sort of...
Thank you for saying that.
And he and I were talking, and we both have a love...
We were arguing.
Yeah, Miss Katie, the one that wasn't here yesterday, she was sitting where Miss EDIE was. And he and I fundamentally agree on the First Amendment and the abilities that it should provide. Where I find fear is... when people abuse that, like these First Amendment auditors, that's when you force people with a pen to start legislating. When you start making them uncomfortable enough, they start legislating against. You can't say fire in a crowded theater. You can't say bomb on a plane. And yet that's restriction on First Amendment if we get into the purist conversation. But yet I don't want it to be illegal for that First Amendment auditor to go out there and flip off the school bus full of kids and cuss out to grandma and all that. I don't want it to be illegal for him to do that, but I want enough civility mixed in the recipe to where if he does that, he's chastised by the people, not by the government.
Yeah, well, also in some of those things, like it's not saying fire in a theater. Though that's like that simple public safety sort of thing.
Exactly.
Like,
your rights end where they infringe on somebody else's.
But like we were saying earlier, it's about that communication piece, right? Like if it's a matter of safety, especially with the tragic history in this country. So, I mean, for some of the younger people that might be watching this podcast, it might not feel recent to you. Might have been kids, but for those that lived through 9/11, like there's a reason why you don't say something like bomb on a plane, or you don't say fire in a theater. It's a matter of public safety, which you can have that debate on the free speech, but if your speech puts people in danger, is that the free speech that you want to have?
The contrast to my conversation being had is those were put into place reactively. You could say fire in a crowded movie theater until I forget what year it was back before this country had high rises and all that, and they put it in the record. Hey, you can't say that. 9/11 come along, no longer can you say bomb on a plane. Everything's reactive. What I'm looking at is proactive. I don't want to get to the point that we lose that right to stand out there on the corner with whatever sign, protest, and march into business. I don't want to lose that right, but
you're not going to.
Well,
you can't legislate. You can't legislate against the Constitution.
All I gotta say is, brother, look at history and governments
happens.
and governments, countries involved. You it may not be constitutional to legislate it, but say you can't. All you got to have is rulers that insist upon it and a following that will abide by it.
Yeah, so
you can say you don't want to legislate all day long.
We could talk in circles all day long about this until the people become informed. As long as it's a government by the people for the people. If the people aren't informed, guess what? Yeah, the government is going to take your rights away.
And that's why we have that here. And like I said,
that's why we have this show.
We're both on the same. We're both on the same side of the coin on this one. It's just he's down there where the date is, and I'm up there at the head of the president. That's thinking that he's thinking. He's the one down there by the butt.
No, come on. I knew you were going to take it.
Anyway, they heard. If y'all want to hear that one, we'll put up that portion. I think that's part of the portion that we.
That's not fair.
Nothing's fair.
Nothing's fair. So anyway, back to you guys. Is there anything about your background or anything like that? Next time, on the other side of the break, what I want to do is Miss Edie wanted to clear up some miscommunications about the Democratic Party.
Sure.
And like I said, I got the feeling on the conversation on the phone afterwards that she didn't feel like she'd really constructively done that last time. A little bit was, like I said, if you don't see this set, we've got a pretty impressive footprint. Y'all see the polished thing over there, but this is a pretty big studio over here. But I thought, well, hey, when you agreed to come on, I said, why not give y'all every opportunity? Because as you can tell, me and him, we don't get no message across. We sit here and do this all day long.
Well, because we can't even get along with one another.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why we have to bring in other people.
That's why you brought me.
You know,
Exactly.
Well, we have a post-show routine where we walk barefoot through jelly, holding hands, and on the other and on the other side of it, we come out friends. So we wash it all off, you know. But like I said, that's for after the show, Bubba. You know. But anyway, but anything that you want to, and I guess we'll start with you. Is there anything in your background or intro that
I want to bring something up about Bob Hall, but I think maybe starting in the next hour
Yeah.
where we've got the whole thing to go.
Yeah, that next hour is going to be a little bit more political. This was
Yeah.
sort of the person
Okay.
behind the policy
Yeah.
and behind
Yeah.
the stance. Next time, we're going to just really get into what the message y'all want to get across. And like I said, and us two jackasses are going to try to stay out of it while y'all get your message.
Jackass.
Did you see what I did? Did you see what I did there?
And I know Bert is not going to try to stay out of it. He's going to be right in the middle.
You know, I'm going to put a dip in my mouth, and I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to try to watch logistics and
Cut
stuff
his
like
mic.
that.
Cut his
Yeah,
mic.
yeah. Tell the boy again, he'll do it. He'll do it just out of fun.
I don't mean to be the elephant in the room, but I think we'll be
Look at
okay.
you see what he did. You see what he did. All righty. Anyway, let's go ahead and do that so we can get to the top of the hour. We're going to throw over to Corbin for sports, and then after Corbin does sports, we're going to do the top of the hour weather update, and then we're just going to roll it all the way down through to the end of the show, and we'll close it up with one last weather update. Like I said, I think it's going to be a pretty decent day out there from what I saw, but we'll figure
Hot.
that. It's going to be hot. That's exactly what it's going to be. So let's go ahead and real quick exit out of here, and then we'll go into the next hour, which looks like it's going to be promising.
Yeah, I mean, hey, please, for anybody that's watching, if you live in Van Zant in the nearby areas, again, my name is Keenan Colbert. I'm running to be your next state senator. There's going to be a lot of things that's about to be said in this next hour that I don't think you're going to want to miss. But also, if you think that I'm not going to show up for the community or that Democrats don't have a space in Van Zant, I would say, hey, you're at the right podcast at the right time. These are the conversations that are the ones that need to be had to kind of bridge these gaps and create a shared understanding through effective communication. So pay attention to the smoke signals and listen to what we have to say in the next hour.
Nice. Miss Edie, anything you want to say to wrap up this segment before we throw it over to Corbin for sports?
I did. I have actually had some normal life. I was a teacher. But I've taught from first grade on up through, and I may have been at your alma mater at the time you were. I don't know. We need to compare.
Oh, really?
TJC? Yeah.
I was there from I got out of there about 2003 or 4 is when I last time I took my class.
I was teaching at what unit?
The high security one.
You're talking TDC. Oh, no. I did that through COVID. There wasn't nobody teaching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
we weren't moving. Only time we did anything was go to Chow.
Well, when I said alma mater.
TJC is where,
There's a difference between the two.
But when you said unit, that's when it plugged in on me, and I said, oh, okay. No, I was at Choice Meyer. Choice Moore up there in Bonham.
Oh, Cofield. Cofield, I did a lot of teaching at Cofield, and that's like walking into a movie set.
Oh.
Like 6-story concrete hall.
I tell everybody.
Smells bad.
I tell everybody I didn't do real time. I did real enough time, but I did not do real time. I never got out of the daddy day camps, which, again, knock on wood, COVID come through there and pretty much locked everything down.
Yeah,
so
but-
I was the last chain out of Gurney to go to Choice Moore, and then they froze
They
everything there.
kept you. You're
and,
lucky.
And they were actually letting. Oh,
You
do not
are
think that
lucky.
was God answering old Bert Rex Fight's prayer. He shut down the prison system for Bert, so I am
Yeah.
very loyal to that
Yeah.
man. But they were actually dismissing people from there to go home, and when they dismissed me, I went from there to East Texas Treatment Facility down there in Kilgore or Henderson. And I did that little drunk tank where they say drunk driving bad, and I said, got it. And so I did.
That's all it took?
I had the message before I got in there. I tell everybody, I'm 8 years sober today, but I was already a year head start when he put them bracelets on me.
Oh, yeah.
I collected more than I want to announce on, because I do not want nobody up there in government saying, hey, we need to reconsider that one. We missed that. So, but I got enough that I qualified for 99. And I never hurt anybody. I just did it on sheer quantity. And so when they offered me my 6 years, I said, thank you, sir. I am going to the house, and I'm not coming back. And I tell everybody that 15 months I was in there, I learned how tough I was, how tough I wasn't, and I learned one thing for certain: I don't want to go back. So
I learned that lesson too in my own way in the military. Like there's levels to tough, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
you, in your head, you might think like, oh, I can take a gunman, or I can take these 3 guys at the bar, or John Wick was written about my spirit. Nah, it's exactly like Mike Tyson said. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the face. You do not know who you truly are until you are tested.
You learn humility when you walk in the room, and you definitely know you're not the toughest guy in the room, and the toughest guy in the room is 2 cocks from normal. I mean, you can just tell, and they're eyeballing people at random in there. I mean, it's. I tell everybody I'm thankful for it in one way. I got, as a journalist, a perspective that not many people get a hold of.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk about it from my perspective, and I never, like I said, I was on chain when we pulled through some of them red bricks that had 2 and 3 stories. I did time with guys that had been in those places that told me enough about it. I know that is one address I never want to put on a resume.
That's right.
So
That's right.
That's a good spot to jump into Corbin.
It sure is. And so we're about to throw it over to the boy and get a little bit of sports update. He got some really good ones, and this is going to be his one and done. So y'all be sure and pay attention. Next time y'all see me, I'm going to be standing in front of a radar. So I'll be right back, and y'all enjoy the sports.
Sports on VZTV.
There we go. Dadgummit. I had to switch out mics and all that stuff. We're only on a 4 mic input. We're going to start off with something a little bit more funnier. So for the first time since 1996, something great has happened historic-wise in the Cowboys Stadium. And it wasn't done by the Cowboys, nor an American. It was done by Lionel Messi. The first ever time he's ever done this. Most goals ever scored in the World Cup. That's honestly crazy to me, and should be to everybody. We'll go straight into this. Dustin Poirier was arrested for public intoxication. UFC news. Sean Strickland and Justin Gaethje are beefing right now over Twitter, and that should be a fight to kind of look for if that does happen. Alex Pereira is considering retirement after this recent loss. Michael Chandler has been removed from the top 15 rankings of the UFC for the first time in his career. That's pretty upsetting for him. Johnny Walker versus Deliha is from what it sounds like is going to happen. Johnny Walker, you got to watch out for them crazy strikes. He's obviously comedic knockout rate on him, unfortunately. Bears, we're getting some Chicago Bears news. They will report to training camp July 25th. Rookies, QBs, everybody. And they will have 2 joint practices here at Cincinnati on August 20th and Tennessee on August 27th. And that's pretty cool. So there has been a trade in the NHL. Emil Penimimi, I can't even say that word. And Oliver Akuler going from the Panthers to the Penguins. And then this one's a crazy one. Brady joins his brother Matthew in Florida. That Kooks, I guess is his last name, are in Florida now. And the big thing about that is they both played the USA Olympics and both got gold medals. And they say that is a for sure matchup to watch. This is big news overnight. Milwaukee Bucks are trading Giannis to the Miami Heat. That's pretty big. He's a very stunning player. Los Angeles Dodgers are the first ones to get to 50 wins for the season. Randall was traded to the Nets. Trey Young just got an extension, signed a 4-year deal with the Washington Wizards. And then Diego Lopez wants to fight at lightweight, UFC. And then we got an Angel Reese quote of the week. You guys make $1,400 in a week. I make it in 7 days. And then Dana White supports Alex Pereira on the decision of attacking Herb Dean because Herb Dean messed up some calls and apparently everybody's mad about it. Todd Gurley remains eligible for the Hall of Fame. And then Josh Hokett has called out DC Daniel Cormier to a fight. For some reason, I don't know. I think it may have been on the topic of Hokett's statement about Michelle Obama, but DC is happily retired. I don't see him coming out of retirement for that. I'm just going to be honest. And now if we flip over to the Rangers, we have they won their match last night. They're right now 4-3. The win was 4-3. They play Miami today at 5:40, and then tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday they will be playing Toronto, and it looks like 6 o'clock for the first 2 p.m. for the second or the third, and then 12 for the fourth. And then if we pop over here to the 2026 FIFA, Portugal versus good luck. You could say that. I'm not gonna try. At 12 p.m. today. And then England versus Ghana is at 3 p.m. today. Panama versus Croatia is at 6 p.m. today. And Colombia versus Congo is 9 p.m. today. Tomorrow is, you can see these. I'm not going to go ahead and read them so I can flip over to gas here in a second. But that is all for my sports. I'm going to switch over to the gas prices and let you look at that for just a second.
VZTV weather.
All right, and thank you, Corbin, for that sports update. And if you want to look It looks like gas prices, if you go to the cheaper spots in town, they're pretty much $3.17 to $3.19. There ain't no sense in even throwing anything else up anywhere else because I think they're all pretty much about that average. Some places are higher, some places are lower. But in Canton is where you can see those. Right now, weather-wise, if you want to look, we're sitting right around the mid-80s today, or right at this point in time. We got 0% chance of rain according to my watch, and it looks like about north, maybe slightly northeast is the wind blowing at it looks like about 14 miles an hour according to my watch. We're going to have a good old hot day, but we still doesn't look like we're going to be breaking into the official 3 digits yet. It's going to probably feel like that. Let's see, the humidity without any rain this morning, Corbin. Let's see, right there is the dew point. Well, we still running around right around lower 70s right there. Some places like Elmo and Terrell out there, Post Oak and Crandall, they're running in the upper 70% range. So the further east you go, the lower that humidity is. And we're going to look at the pollen rate over here. Looks like we're still going to be in the green. Let me get over here so you can see that little thing right down there. It looks like we're going to be still, I mean, depends on how sensitive you are to what is in the air. But we're not hitting up there into the bad red zones yet and all that stuff. Those are going to be to come, I'm sure. And let's look at our forecast. I'm going to step right over here. It looks like that we're going to run right around 90s for our highest temperature for today, 91. Before we start doing our little decline into the evening, right around 6 a.m., it looks like there may be a small 33% chance of rain overnight, but it doesn't look like it lasts that very much long. So basically all that's going to do is come in and add to the humidity. The next couple of days are going to be a little bit on a climb. Looks like we're going to be going to cruising altitude, getting ready for July and August, 93, 94, 95 coming up in the next days. Our low temperature is going to be tonight at 74 degrees. Tomorrow's going to mirror today with a 2-degree increase on the high. So basically, guys, get your suntan lotion out there, get to the beach, enjoy your nice summer because this Texas weather is not going to disappoint. So now we're going to toss back over to Ryan, and Ryan's going to consume the screen while I run back over there and get in my seat, and then we're going to talk a little bit of Democrat policies and philosophies that maybe some of you have a misunderstanding on. We're out here to deliver a message that these two want to deliver, and we hope that we can clear up some misunderstandings among the masses and maybe get the best of the best representatives in here. I'm not saying who that is, but the more you know, the better you vote, and the better you vote, the better the person behind the ballot is. So let's back to you, Ryan.
Thank you. You got me turned on. There we go. Thank you, Bert. Appreciate the update and the very, very informative weather. So I put in the promo last night. My main goal here today was to make sure no one threw chairs, no one got taken out, and it was mostly EDIE we were concerned about. I mean, there had been a lot of talk about how EDIE can really,
I break knees.
yeah, she can turn it up when put into a corner. So, I mean, I'm basically just kind of I'm going to try not to be a casual bystander here. That's my whole goal. But
Well, I wanted to get in here because, like I said, again, she said that she, being the underdog of the underdogs. I mean, your story makes Rudy's look like he was the first round draft pick. I mean, because being a Democrat in Van Zandt County historically has been an uphill climb, and if somebody did it, it was more on principle than it was on anything else. But you didn't get into this on principle. You got in this to win office, and I believe, as we talked about over the break while Corbin was doing sports, there's a message that may not be understood among the masses, and so today we're going to get here and we're going to talk about a little bit of Democratic policy, clear the mud up, in y'all's own words, tell people where the misconceptions are and exactly where y'all stand today.
Well, one of the things that we briefly touched on last time I was with you was that Democrats have open borders. Democrats have always been for open borders. Democrats have never been for open borders. Democrats are law and order. Democrats want some order in the chaos. And if you look up the statistics on deportations, Obama, I forget what they called him, the king of deportations or something, because during his time in office, there was 8 million. No, that's not right. There was 3 million people deported
Right.
who were not here legally and who were not here with a green card and had not followed the rules. And he took a lot of flack. Obama took a lot of flack for all the deportations. And then, so Trump had, I believe, you can look up these statistics. I believe
Yeah, but we missed a
in-
president. We
in a-
missed a president in there. We had Biden, and it was open borders.
Well, we had Trump first and Biden and Trump. Trump first deported 1.5 million, I believe, is the statistic. And after Obama, that looks like open borders to me.
Can I add something? And I don't mean to cut off the conversation, but like the question was to kind of like address the difference between Democrats and Republicans, right? Correct.
Right. And any misconceptions out there.
Misconceptions.
Yeah.
Misconceptions. We don't have open borders.
Here's my and I don't want to dismiss that point, and we can certainly get back to it. But the misconception that I see as, and for context for anybody that's watching, I am a lifelong Texan. My family goes back in Texas for generations. Like the misconception that I see between the Democrat and the Republican Party is almost a moot point at this point in time, because
Right.
and we talked about this earlier before the show even started, like the priority is the people and the issues. If you're fighting on one side of a political aisle just to be on what you want to be as the winning team, and you don't understand that the goal is a better society for the people, regardless of if they vote for you or not, then it's a moot point. Now, again, you've seen me in Republican spaces. Edie's seen me in Democratic spaces. This is just my brutally honest take on the conversations that are happening in the space. What I see from the Republican Party is the conservatism around culture, and the candidates that are running for local office are essentially fear-mongering, conserving their culture in fear of the unknown, whether that's the Muslims
Outsider.
or whether that's gays or trans or whatever it is.
Outsiders,
It's
yeah.
this fear of this outside entity. Many of these entities that's already been around for generations, if not centuries. The problem that I see in Democratic spaces is essentially like the lack of the ground game awareness of where the common people's minds are when it comes to like the mindset behind conservatism. I fundamentally believe that if you know better, you do better, right? Like if you made poor choices as a young person, when you grow older, you realize they're poor because you learned along the way. You got more information, and everyone always says, boy, if I knew then what I know now, I would have made different choices, right? You can apply the exact same thing to politics. And I wish that more people applied that to the psychology of just collective people, right? So we live in Texas, and the common conception is that Texas is a red state. It's just a red state, right? Texas is not simply a red state. It's a non-voter state, which is a bigger issue regardless of political party.
Amen
If
to
we
that.
treated
Yeah.
our government like it belongs to us, which, by the way, it does. Check the preamble of the Constitution. It belongs to us. If we treated it like that, we would get those better candidates. We would get the best possible options. But again, we have low voter turnout. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're independent. That is the problem. People either aren't engaged in our democratic process or they aren't informed about the issues and what people are trying to run for. So the common misconception that I see from Republicans is they're not running on solving the actual problems for the everyday constituent. And the problem that I see from the Democratic Party is they're not aware or engaged with the other side, which is why I was so happy to come here and have this conversation, because I said from the jump, I will never be afraid to have a conversation. You didn't see me walk into that people's convention. What was it called?
The People's Debate.
You didn't see me walk into that people's debate shy or afraid to shake somebody's hand or timid or shaking or anything like that. You're Texan just like I am. If you were in that room, that means you care to some degree of politics, very similar to the way that I care about politics, right? And politics is just a word for how we treat each other. So go ahead.
I don't want to argue with Ryan about who did the most deportations and all of that. I'd like to point out that the conception that Democrats want open borders is wrong. It's just wrong. We are law and order people. Our presidents were following it.
Well, I think there's splinters in both sides. For instance, last night while I was working, and I was working kind of late, I was listening to Mark Levine, who I hate, by the way, but I do listen to him every night for context. But he
doesn't help you get sleep at night.
No, he makes me very angry. I don't know if it's his voice or what he talks about, but he makes me very angry. But I'm listening to him, and actually it wasn't him. It was a guy that was filling in for him on his show, talk for 30 minutes about the data centers and how they're good and people don't understand them. And then on another show, I'm listening to Sid Miller talk about we can't have data centers. And we're talking two hardline right Republicans.
Sure.
And I'm listening to two people at the same time talk completely different sides of something going on. And obviously that's not just on the conservative side, that's on the Democrat side. So I don't want to argue with EDIE either about the amount of deportations, but I think it's fair to say that the Democrats there's probably half the Democrats that would say, yeah, deport them. We don't believe in open borders, but I think that there's also a certain faction that we see or that we're aware of that are like, no, we need to welcome people in.
Can I add a perspective on the subject of deportations and border security as somebody that's worked the borders? When the average person talks about border security, number one, my first go-to question is which one? Because we also have a northern border and nobody talks about the migration from, north to south.
Hordes
and I
of
think
Canadians.
It's pretty obvious why
Those
we
damn
don't
Canadians.
talk about. Yeah, no one talks about the Canadians crossing the border, and they do it all the time. Yeah. We are also 4
We're
kilometers.
Not for that. I mean, as Republicans, we shouldn't allow the Canadians in. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but that's the subject of border security, right? When people bring up border security, the first thought is the southern border because that's the problem and that's where all the brown people are coming from or whatever it is. When again, I'm from Texas. I've lived here my entire life. I know a lot of Texas history. My family has been here for a lot of Texas history. And what we don't often realize is that Texas used to be Mexico. A lot of those people aren't just crossing a border. Essentially, they're coming home. There's a reason why El Paso is named El Paso, or San Antonio is named San Antonio, or Santa Fe, or Los Angeles, or many of these other cities. And I'm not saying that to justify that people should just come and go. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. What I'm trying to point out is there's a history there that there's a lot of people that are unaware of. The point that I'm actually trying to make is when we talk about border security, the train of thought usually stops at just someone physically crossing a border. We rarely in these spaces talk about the challenges of the actual legal process to become a citizen. Now, maybe you've kind of figured it out, but I like to base some of my opinions on history. I think that if you want to, the greatest indicator of future behavior is past behavior. So if you're going into a subject of conversation without knowing the history, you're starting at a disadvantage. So when you're talking about migration or border security and the process of becoming a legal citizen is so incredibly challenging, I would argue that would incentivize somebody who is looking for a better life, who might have family or history in these lands, that wants to work here and be a productive citizen. It incentivizes them to circumvent that process. Because if you guys were in that situation, I'm willing to bet that under the right pressures, you would do the exact same thing. The system isn't designed to be effective to go from migrant to citizen, even though in both Texas history and in U.S. history, immigration has always been a net positive. There has not been a downside. And oftentimes in Republican spaces, they talk about the criminal aspect of it, but you never talk about the criminal aspect of the homegrown threats that we have all the time. You never talk about the folks that shoot up the schools or sexually assault or abuse or rape their neighbors or their spouses or things like that, or they rob their businesses or embezzle and all these other sorts of things. You never talk about the damage that comes from homegrown. You make a mountain out of a molehill in a small community of people, many of which who are originally from here. And then you never talk about how difficult the process has actually been for them to become citizens. I welcome immigration because immigration is a net benefit for our state and for our country. I don't welcome illegal immigration,
Right.
but I
Legal.
think that the solution to that is addressing the process to make it more efficient and proper. But if you're just talking about border crossing without talking about the fact that our state, or our country is also neighbors with Russia. Alaska and Russia are only 4 kilometers apart. We can all walk that, right? You never talk about that. You never talk about and I'm not saying you specifically. I'm just saying like.
Well, we do have the dew line up there though, so you can't just walk it.
Sure. But you know, the point that I'm making is like the common conception is like we have a southern border problem. No, we have a legislative process that is a problem for migrants to become legal citizens.
In 2024, the legislature, the Congress came up with a bill that put a lot more money on the border and increased surveillance and lots more judges to facilitate the process of whether a person could come legally or not.
Sure.
We had that bill in 2024, and we had bipartisan support until Donald called up his Republican legislators and told them, vote no, because I want to use it for a campaign issue. So we tried. We tried.
Well, now I want to play a little bit of a devil's advocate on what you said. You talk about, and you're like, you know, we talk about the immigrant that commits the crime, but we don't bring up the homegrown. Okay, if I've got a problem child, that boy over there, and I got my hands full with him and his sister. I don't really want the neighbor's kids in my house too, and they're being unruly as well. So to get homeostasis in my own house, I'm gonna say we ain't got friends over for a while, and then we're gonna get control of my kids, and then we might talk about guests. You talked about a process. I mean, unless y'all have just not turned on your TV for the past, so many years, the people that are getting the mic and the cameras are saying open borders. I mean, you got half of Hollywood up there. This is stolen land. I mean, you sort of touched into that. You got your socks wet. You got your socks wet when you when you put your foot in that puddle. You said, that Mexico used to be, it's El Paso. You sort of got your socks wet on that same little, this is native land. But at some point, there is no argument the flood by any means. However, I hate tracking down and pointing fingers in the past because all it does is distract how we stop it. I allowed you to go there, but you brought up the process. Yeah. What is the process that we take? And at some point, we've got to stop allowing the neighborhood's bad kids in the house and say, hey, let's get control of what we got here. And then from there, we'll start vetting our children. And I've always said the process, as you brought up, was too complicated for somebody that may not have clean water when they have the cartels and stuff like that. Hold on just a second, Ryan. And so therefore the process may be out of reach for somebody. Like right now, I'm trying to build a TV channel. If I was told tomorrow that he broke his arm, that I had to go down and pay a bill for him medically, it would be out of reach for me, no matter how affordable it is for Ryan.
Yes.
And so I do believe if we make it easier for the good fellas to come in, then when the bad people are trying to do their things, they'll stick out like a sore thumb.
Sure.
And so I agree with that process. I'm sorry, Ryan, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's why we wanted more judges to facilitate the process and to analyze whether a person had reason.
I get that, but if you listen to the message that is being had, or the discussion that's being had on the immigration isn't being. I mean, what y'all are saying here, that sounds like a moderate Republican or moderate, it's sort of is middle aisle. Yeah. But if you get to seeing the people that have the microphones
the
and all
media,
that stuff,
the media.
And it's on both sides. I mean, even when you watch CNN, which I'm sure you agree with most of what they say at some point. I mean, maybe not. Y'all are East Texas Democrats. We have the best Democrats in the world out here in East Texas. But even they, I mean, you can watch The View. And,
the only one.
Right. We watched The View the other day when they had the interview with J.D. Vance. I thought that was a great show. Probably the only View I'll ever watch, but it was the only one I've ever watched in history. But it was a really good one because of the way both sides, exactly the way both sides were handling it and stuff like that. But what's being had that's influencing the legislation isn't what we're talking here, that we basically sound like we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
What we're having is, why are we having borders? Because we're migratory, this is their land, this is all stolen land. We stole this land, we shouldn't be here, How do we get to the process conversation and not that poo-poo conversation?
Can I, and I don't want to forget the fact that you have a thought, but I just want to add this because you brought up something like, pointing the finger to the past about the problem. Again, the time I was working with DHS to help secure our southern border was 2019, which was right before that, that big election cycle, right? So it was already an on the ground topic that we all knew. It was part of my very first briefs when I went down there. They're like, this is really important. Trump is going to be running on this and stuff. Don't screw these things up and all that. I heard the speech whenever I got there, right? I think that the biggest issue was making it a one aisle or another issue.
Amen.
When you divided when you divide that caucus, when you divide the population on the central focus of an issue, and then you distract that to, they're criminals, they're rapists, they're coming from here and bringing drugs and doing this, that, and the third. Texas has been a border state for the longest, but the whole time, right? It's never been the issue that they made it out to be. So I think that the real issue was misconstruing the issue, right? We've always had migration. We've always had that, that presence in Texas, the Native Americans, the Mexicans, the migrants coming from all over, and many folks have welcomed that. And guess what? If anyone's worrying about the criminal element of it, I would always be worried about a criminal element of it. I don't want crime in my community. I want a safe community. I want, to have a firm and fair hand in our justice system. And that conversation about our justice system, we can go on for hours because there's a lot of history in Texas as well as the South altogether for that. But, on the subject of immigration, the issue was making it a different issue. The real problem was, how do we make this process effective for our country and efficient for the migrants that are seeking to come, to where you could spot those criminal elements, to where you could spot those bad role players to keep the community safe. But if you're distracting it and moving the goalpost or making it something that it's not, that's not the issue that people care about. Most people want the same thing. They want a house where they can raise a family. They want to live in a safe community. They want to be able to afford, food and gas and groceries and all of these things. And they want to live in a nice neighborhood, right? They don't want to feel afraid of their neighbors just because they speak more than one language, which, by the way, I've, again, lived in Texas my whole life. I know people that only speak English and barely, right?
Right.
it is, if anything, for and young people will get this, it's a flex to be able to speak more than one language. I wish I was
Right.
bilingual
It is.
or trilingual. I welcome that sort of, that element into our society. It makes us stronger, not weaker, and it should make us more confident and not afraid.
Broader. We
Exactly.
broaden our horizons.
But you had a thought, and I want you to get there.
My phone is blowing up because I made the comment about the Canadians, and maybe I had some family listening. So I'm an immigrant. I'm from Canada. In fact, we have land on both sides of the border, Montana and Alberta. So I naturalized here when I was, I can't remember, I was 14. I went down to the border, got sworn in. But prior to that, we just crossed willy-nilly wherever we wanted to. But when we talk about the process, and I've often wondered this, being that we would cross the border sometimes 5 times a day, the northern border, but still the same border patrol, same port of entries, all that stuff. The only difference is Canada doesn't have like people shooting at you on the border. Well, unless we were like shooting on the ranch. But
I would also point out that I'll preface this with saying I'm not a gambling man. I've never been a gambling man. But if I had to place a bet, I would be willing to bet my bottom dollar that you as an immigrant was treated completely different than a Mexican crossing the border being an immigrant.
This is my point when we talk about process, and obviously it's changed a little bit, but I still have relatives up there. I understand how the process works. The thing that baffles me is people coming from Central America, they come up through Mexico, and I don't know if they don't know any better. They don't have to cross illegally. If they have a passport and a reason to come across the border, they can literally come across the bridge. Like they don't need to be swimming in the river to come across. So a lot of this, like we were building walls in the back of my mind for years. I'm like, well, why are they even doing that?
They're flying in and overstaying visas. That's where
and so that's a different thing altogether. My stepdad, he's almost guilty of that when he comes down here for any amount of time. He's only allowed to be down here for, I think, 6 months at a time. And then he's got to go back to Canada or else he's, whatever. He's an illegal immigrant at that point. So, I mean, he pays attention to that. They leave Arizona and go back. I don't remember for how long, but anyways, the point I was trying to make is the process for those that actually want to go through the process, it's drawn out to a certain extent, but it's reachable by everybody if they actually chose to go that route. They let me in.
Exactly. They let you in. And I
believe it's the same process for everybody.
I wish that were true. I would respectfully disagree. I've seen the way that some people who are citizens were treated just because they didn't look a certain way. I don't think that if you never brought up the fact that you were a legal migrant or a migrant at all, people probably wouldn't check you on that. You wouldn't be afraid of ICE going around in your neighborhoods or ripping you out of your home or anything like that. There is a certain element to
it. Still crosses my mind.
It crosses your mind, but probably much different to a person with a
it crosses
Spanish
his
accent.
mind when he sees Terrell State Hospital going up and down the road. He thinks it's that kind of ICE that's coming after him. But my thing is, okay, as we could tell, you and Ryan having that conversation and that dynamic are not going to come see eye to eye. So give us a process that can make y'all agree. Because I think you two have the same sort of, you see the problem on the skin color and how the treatment and stuff like that.
Did you tell the guests what happens if we ultimately don't agree? Where we set the mud pit up?
Yeah,
we have a cage.
He told me that one time, first time we disagreed or something like that on the phone or something. He says, we're gonna have to wrestle this out if we ain't gonna agree. And I told him, I said, only stipulation is it's got to be nude. Exactly, it's got to be nude. Exactly. She gets me.
I would argue that you and I agree. And I'll just ask this simple question: would you agree? Would you support a more efficient and effective legal process for migrants?
I would 100% agree on that, and every other process that could be better and more efficient that the government could do.
Now,
I think that's the work that needs to get done.
I'm going to add the caveat to that. A good, efficient process will also vet out those that shouldn't be coming in,
Right.
and it will
Sure.
it will
Yeah.
it will have its own self limiters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we're playing catch here, so here's my volley back to you. As State Senator D2, what would you be able to do, and what would you do to create that positive change? And again, if it's positive change, I can't see how anybody out there would argue that. So,
Yeah, exactly.
So give us the positive change that you would put into place in your seat, and where we would see it on the street in practice.
Well, I think up here in Van Zandt County, we might not see it as much, but certainly like those border towns might see something more effective. But the thing that I would do if once I win my election is, either author or vote in favor of, like making that process more efficient. I'm not going to pretend to know the ins and outs now. Like I'll be honest and say that there's a lot of things about it that I don't know, that I don't even know. But I've been there. I've seen the process. I've seen the issue that most people get in front of cameras to talk about myself. So like I have that lived experience in that direct interaction with some of those migrants when it was that kind of hot topic issue. I would vote in favor of, or even author a bill to make that legislative process more efficient, whether that is, increasing funding for that department, or, to staff it, or to, whatever it needs to happen, because some of these things have affected people that I know in my personal life. I know people in my personal life that have gone through the legal process, and it took years before they even set foot on American soil, right? And it's people that pose zero threat and have actually been a net benefit to this country before they even got here. Folks that have worked in U.S. embassies overseas, like people I know directly. So what I would do once I win this seat, obviously that's a priority because Texas is a border state, to say like we need to, first of all, November isn't the finish line. It's the starting line, because whoever wins, Democrat or Republican, you need to get to work, right? There are issues on the table that genuinely concern people, and you need to start getting to work. I think the border issue, maybe not for this county, but for Texas as a whole, is something that the Senate would need to come together and say, let's actually fix this problem as a border state. Let's fix this problem not just for Texans. Let's fix this problem for migrants that are choosing to come to this country through Texas. And maybe they want to come through New York like they did on Ellis Island. Maybe they want to come through California. Maybe they want to come through, the northern states, wherever it is. But what we can do in Texas is make our process way more efficient. And that's what I would do. I would get to work either voting in favor of that process if somebody's introduced that legislation, digging up the legislation if it's been written before but shot down, or just writing it myself. I don't think that would be too much to commit to say, hey, here's a problem. Somebody's either solved it before, so let's dig in the archive, see if we can pull something back, present it on the floor, or if we need to rewrite it, let's rewrite it and then vote for this again, because it's something that everyone thinks about or everyone's thought about from time to time. So that's what I would do.
I like that, and I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think anytime
this is why these conversations need to happen.
I love it, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm in a different position when it comes to immigration, being an immigrant myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not a brown immigrant or however, but it doesn't matter from my point of view. An immigrant's an immigrant. I mean, I'm naturalized to the United States, which makes me as much U.S. citizen as
You're just as American as I am now.
Yes. So the border walls, I think, are important. And I think part of this is education. I don't know how you tell people, quit trying to swim across the river, quit hiring Yodis to bring you into some unknown place. And obviously the drug trade and all that is a completely separate topic. We're not even going to get into that. But as far as legal immigration, if they could actually take the policy they have now, pull out the good parts, enhance it, that would not only protect U.S. citizens, it would also enable, it would satisfy both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All
Okay.
right, I
Well,
love
we're
it.
done.
Hey, let's start here. Well, I wanna real quick, because I would also like to address some sort of local stuff that's going on, and your opponent's been very vocal about. But before we do that, Corbin, let's throw up the lunch specials for today. Waiting. There we go. Tracks on Main Street in Grand Saline. $14.99. You get a hamburger steak, mashed potatoes, and a drink. Y'all could get dirty sodas. Guys, if y'all have never eaten here, you need to. It's scratch cooking. And I mean, it's just like your grandmama used to make. And me and the wife, we go there, and when we leave, she says it doesn't feel like we're eating out somewhere. It feels like we're eating over somewhere, like we're eating over at somebody's house. And so
That's the best.
The two salty bras down there, 100 North Main Street. If you're coming from Van or Canton, once you cross the tracks, you see the mural on the side of the wall. It's a beautiful establishment in there. They have a lot of knickknacks and things that you can purchase. It's like a little boutique on the inside. They have ice cream, and if a train goes by and you're first in line, it's called tooting a scoot around here. So you get a free scoop of ice cream if a train goes by while you're first in line. So y'all be sure and go see the two salty broads at Tracks General Mercantile. Also, we have Grand Slice. Oh, we all go ahead, Corbin. We'll leave that up there. Van Boom Fest. That's coming up. There's going to be several of them around the county, I know, but Van is going to be Saturday. So there you go. There's the information on that flyer. Grand Saline's going to have one as well. That's going to kick off about 2 o'clock. There's going to be watermelon eating contest, a saltine cracker eating challenge, a jalapeno eating contest between the sheriff's department and the police department. So y'all be sure, whichever one y'all go to, y'all be sure to go out there, celebrate responsibly. If you do happen to partake, please take your time, get don't get a DWI, get a DD, so you don't get a DWI. Boy, dyslexia kicked me in the rear there. That was what you called for it, Ian. And we want to thank Grand Slice for jumping on board. They have a 2 large for $20 special for 1 topping. So they're between Brookshire's and Family Dollar. So we want to thank them for coming on board. So y'all go shop these local establishments. We built this to help the local community. You can see the cars down there, the people that have thrown money. They got skin in the game, so we can have these conversations right here. So let's bring it on back into the conversation because we've only got about 30 minutes left, and I don't want to cut nobody short. But one of the things your opponent, Senator Hall, who is the incumbent in this race, he's been very vocal here lately about the game rooms. And it came down to the point to where he put sort of a bullseye on the back of District Attorney Tonda Curry's back and literally went out vocally against how she was handling the situation because she wasn't making life a living hell on these game room owners and the folks that go work there and the people that go that go to these places. So there is a group of constituents out there that sort of feel like they're not being represented because of this fact and that Senator Hall is so passionate and so focused on that issue here locally. You as his opponent and that to that constituency out there that do not feel like they have a delegate speaking their voice, what do you say to them? I mean, this could be the opportunity to pick up some votes.
Well, I mean, what I would say to them is, first of all, I am not very hard to get a hold of. So if you want to come talk to me directly about it or share your, if you have a more in-depth knowledge or perspective on the game rooms, I am open to any of these conversations. There's no topic of conversation relevant to Texas or Texas politics that I'm not willing to have. I find it personally ironic that someone who is, running under a banner of extreme conservatism and, supporting quote unquote individual liberties is the one trying to limit individuals' liberties. Last I checked, everybody in this room, we're all grown, right? We can make our own choices. Our government isn't our parents telling us what and what not to do or what we can and can't do. If what you're doing is not hurting anyone else or it's not a disturbance to the community, I don't see the harm. Now, I've heard my opponent speak about a number of things, and although the temptation has certainly been there to speak out against it, I'm going to do my best to respect the space and say, hey man, you run whatever kind of a race you want to run. I'm hoping that this year, above all years, people are going to be aware of what's on their ballot and they're going to choose the candidate that they think is best. I hope many people look at the person over the party. I know that many people still will, but Bob Hall has a very long track record. And I'm saying this next part as his constituent for the last 5 years that I've been living in Forney. I'm not impressed. The impression that I get from his dare I say leadership or representation of the constituents is he's out of touch with the constituents, not just in the district, but in this very county. Why would you paint that target on this, district attorney's back? Why would you go against this? You work for the people. If the people are telling you that they want something or that they don't want something, that last I checked, that's your boss, right? So if again, I try not to, I try to give his campaign room to breathe because I don't feel the need to chop somebody down to feel like I'm standing taller. I stand tall on my own right. But what I will say is what he's doing with, with the game rooms or his opposition to the things that some of his constituents are in support of, it tells me as a constituent and it tells me that the constituents that he represents aren't being heard. They aren't being seen. They aren't like their opinions, their perspectives, their desires aren't being taken seriously, which is a part of the reason why I'm running in the first place.
Well, now he does have a group out there that he is very vocal on what they hold true and dear. And so there is a group that are supporting him.
Sure.
And so this is where, and I don't want it to come off as if, he's not representing nobody in Van Zandt County, because he's got a group out there that is very vocal, very active, and engaging support. My thing is let's throw it all out there, throw it up there, and the more voters, better man catches,
Yeah.
And so without, like you said, going into the territory you don't want to go into, he does have a group of folks out there, but I know that I talk to a whole lot of folks out here while I'm doing it, and a lot of them say, I don't care, or I go there. I don't know why he's, there's bigger issues, bigger fish to fry is a lot of what I hear. So what do you say to the folks that may not normally vote Democrat, but something like that, like you said, smaller government intrusion in your personal life? What would be your pitch to that person that would normally go in there and they would stroke a Republican candidate, and it would be a big deal for them to go chick, 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 chick?
I mean, I would say this: look at your life and think twice. Because I've been in Texas my entire life, and the majority of my life, Texas has been under largely Republican representation, largely Republican leadership. Please educate me if I'm wrong, but what's gotten better? Our education has gotten worse. Our cost of living has gotten worse.
We've had 30 years of Republicans.
The homes that, first time buyers are like, the homes are more expensive. It is the American dream is gradually being pushed farther and farther out of reach. Meanwhile, the misconception around the Republican Party, and I say this as someone who enters their spaces, who talks to, Republicans as often as I can, who welcomes the conversation. They're not talking about fixing the issues. I'm just seeing, all I'm hearing when I go and when I speak to and have these direct conversations is that preservation of this perceived culture without being informed on Texas history of other communities and things like that. What I would say to those voters is look at your life and think twice. If you think that the only things that stands between you and whatever you're afraid of is Republican Party and they're going to make sure that the government is small and all of these things, your own life in Texas has proved the contrary. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what your tax bracket is in the state of Texas. It simply hasn't gotten better. So the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I think it's fair to say for many Texans, whether they're conservative or not, whether they're independent or Democrat or liberal or whatever side of this spectrum that you're on, I think it's fair to say that we all want positive change. We all want something different. We're all tired. We're all working too hard. We're all making too much of an end have to meet at the end of the month. Like sometimes at the end of the month, those ends don't always meet, and we're tired of that.
Yep, it's the
not that
23rd. I get it.
Yeah, I promise you, especially for the older crowd, I promise you it's not the avocado toast. I promise you it's not a matter of some young people just needing to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. There are people working 40, 50, 60, 70. I've met a few folks that are working 80, 90-hour work weeks to make ends meet. It's not that they're not working hard. It's that the system is not working for them. It's not like some of this information is hard to look up where some of these people's money for their campaigns are coming from. There's a lot of folks that are just hoping that they don't look, that you don't find out where their money's coming from.
They better not watch this show because
we look.
Yeah, we've mentioned it more than once, and matter of fact, I even said on WBAP the other day. I called up to the James Show because I listen to them all the time, and sometimes when they enter a conversation that I like to just throw a little wrench in the system, just see what they respond to. But yeah. Miss Edie, you had something that you wanted to say.
Bob Hall does not represent me. He went ahead and went along with the voucher system and pulled money out of our public schools right here. And the majority of Texans, especially rural Texans, did not want vouchers. Well, I checked where Bob Hall's campaign money comes from. A whole bunch of it comes from charter schools. In 2000 and was it 24? 22.
Oh my God.
22. Oh, there we have it. Okay. Bob Hall's contributors, check out the contributors. No. Charter schools, and then the individual that puts the money in for his campaign was the next biggest contributor. That guy.
Hold on.
He's the head.
This is what I'm talking about, because like when you're talking about, like public schools are publicly funded, and publicly funded means that money came out of our checks.
Money.
That's our money.
Well, we're getting into a whole nother thing here because I don't think politicians should be taking PAC money or.
Well, that's exactly where I was. Well, this is 100%. Where I was. Well, and that's where I was really bringing this back around to. Ryan knew where I was going.
Feel free to pull me up, by the way.
But yeah, the PAC money is where I see a lot of unions. And I know, of course, this is a lot of Democrats, they support unions.
Yes.
And I feel the same way about unions as I do about PACs. When people go in and it's big corporation or something like that coming in and throwing money behind somebody. And one of the things I brought up on the James Show was, let's look at the campaign finance and where does the money come from. If it comes from corporation, that's one thing. If it comes from individual. And one of the things he brought up was, some of that money comes from out-of-state millionaires. Well, that's fine with me as long as an individual, because we're a United States. Texas is where the vote's cast.
Sure. Tim Dunn appreciates that statement.
And, but I look at it this way. If Tim Dunn's name's on it, just like on this show, when we did Barney.
It is. Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes.
But
Bob Hall is funded by Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilkes.
But this, and without going down too much of that rabbit hole, because like I said, it's all out there, public information.
Sure.
My son, who's not even plugged into politics, just doing what a producer does, pull it up.
Transparency USA.
And just threw it out there. That sort of caught us off guard because when you reacted, I looked over and said, oh, wow, look at the boy doing that producer's job. But, my thing is this. On our Burning Wagons show, when we did that, we would not allow someone to come in under an alias and leave a comment because you would get certain people that had your gotchas. And I've always been this. If you don't like me, walk up to me, to my face, and tell me you don't like me. Let's shake hands first, introduce ourselves. Tell me why you don't like me. And if I think your point's good enough, if it's not good enough, as long as I don't get too offended over it, we'll shake hands and walk our separate directions. Now, if it rises to another level, then we'll address it that way. And that's
in the mud pit.
Naked. All right, family friendly, Miss Edie. But to me, if you're going to put your name on something, put your name on something. Because it is all transparency, it is all recorded, and it's not a whole bunch of investors trying to jump into a certain group to try to influence something else, because we don't know where these things originate or where they evolve from. I don't support PACs for one reason, good or bad. For that reason, because if you guys support there's always, we do it for on every side of the PAC, and there's always somebody that thinks that's a good idea. Take that off the table. Make everybody put their name on it, put a cap over on what you're going to spend. Because honestly, it's not about who outraises who. You know, that's beauty pageant stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we do down here at the Salt Festival and stuff like that. It ought to come who's got the best attitude. And
I can't buy your vote. I have to earn that.
Yeah.
And that's the approach that I take every day whenever I talk to constituents or whenever I go around, the counties and the districts. I mean, don't get me wrong, money can help put my name out there. Like, it can help me buy a flyer or a
has
sign.
close to $500,000 sitting there.
And it's going to be all the more embarrassing when he loses to me, of the person who didn't take the PAC money, who did the work, who talked to people, who went door to door, who made the phone calls, who did the work. There is a intrinsic value to authenticity.
He's going to have a lot of shiny flyers come through the mail.
Now, now I will say this. Okay, now we've talked about his. Where does your campaign finance come from? You told me the other day.
The people. Plain and simple. Like for many months, and EDIE can attest to this because she was there when I first introduced myself to the Van Zant community. Like, there was months where during the primaries I didn't ask for any donations because I was like, I'm just a candidate. I wasn't running in. I didn't have a primary opponent. So if there was some money that somebody wanted to donate, I wanted them to give it to somebody who had a primary opponent to give them the best chance to choose the best possible candidate. You know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't sit right in my heart to say, like, yeah, let me start fundraising now because I'm not up against anyone. Right? My push, even my very gentle push into fundraising, started with just the desire to have a flyer to hand out, because I'm not going to ask anyone for money unless I have a purpose to have that money, right? Like, unless I need to purchase signs or flyers or a venue space to host an event or something like that, I'd rather you keep your money, because I don't know about y'all, but I've worked hard my entire life. Like, my dollars mean something to me, and when a lot of candidates start, especially first-time candidates, they start fundraising through something. It's like an old term. It's called Rolodexing. We all know what that is. But you call the people that you know, because if the folks that you know don't support you, what's the point in asking a stranger? Now, for me, I don't come from money. I'm not rich. I don't know anyone that is rich. So I know who I'm asking, and I know that many of the people that I'm asking probably don't have much, which is why the sentimental value behind that $5 or $10 investment into my campaign, it meant something. Like, there was someone that I called early on, letting them know that I'm running and, asking them to consider for a donation. And I told them not to, because they had shared with me that they had recently lost their job or they were struggling and things like that. And I was like, please don't make a campaign donation. I will figure it out. I've been taking money out of my own pocket. I'm living off of savings from whenever I was working. I'm campaigning full time now, obviously, but I'm living off of savings and some of the veteran benefits that I have. I'm like, I'm pulling out my own money. Please keep your $15. Put it towards groceries.
Right.
That'll buy you bread. That'll buy you eggs. That'll buy you something. And she gave it to me anyways. And I appreciated that. But on the same side, the other side of that coin, there's some people, they'll give you $500 without a second thought because it doesn't mean anything to them.
Right.
But for the people that I have, I love the song, I have friends in low places and stuff, because I've got friends all over the place. I've got friends high and low, and I see them all the same. Right. So whenever I go and, earn people's donations, it's not just asking the highest bidder or this or that and the third. Like, it's all come from people who I've sat or I've talked with or I've called over the phone, and they're like, I believe you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to donate, $5, $10, $20, $100 or whatever it is.
Right.
I haven't gone out to, big Democrats or big PACs or whatever it is, because hell or high water, come November 4th, I'm getting a good night's sleep. And I'm going to get a good night's sleep because I'm going to run an honest race the way that I would hope somebody would run if they wanted to represent me in halls of power. As a Marine officer, like as a enlisted Marine turned Marine officer, I fully understand the value of being in the room behind closed doors. I fully understand the value of carrying that voice into that room, which is why when I'm campaigning, I tell people flat out, my job, if I'm duly elected, if I earn your votes, my job will not be to speak for you in the state legislature. It's to carry your voice into the room. I'm speaking on your behalf. And the only way that I can do that effectively is remaining engaged with the community.
Right.
So just a really quick side point to that, and a lot of people miss this. If you are duly elected, you're not just representing Democrats.
Exactly.
You're representing everybody.
I say that everywhere I go. This is not just, first of all, my name is just on the ballot. This isn't about me. And this campaign does my personal life zero favors, by the way. I'm doing this because I truly love my country and I love my state, and I think that it's worth fighting for. And I think that the generation alive today, as well as the next one, deserves better than what they have now. And it's not going to happen unless we put in the freaking work. And I also understand that I'm running in a largely Republican area, which is totally fine. I had many conversations with Cooley, and we agree about a lot of things. I saw it. If you paid attention to that people's event in Canton, I went to Bob. Whenever I didn't go there planning to speak. I came to sit and listen and just respect the space. When they asked me to stand up and speak, if you remember, when I grabbed the mic, Bob Hall walked out of the room. He didn't want to hear what I had to say. Afterwards, whenever the forum was continuing, I went directly towards him to introduce myself and shake his hand and thank him for his service in the Air Force. Because if nothing else, we can at least agree, hey, appreciate you for being a veteran. And then we got into the conversations of, why did you choose to run, this and that and the third. But the priority is the people. And if I am duly elected, I fully understand I have to remain engaged and represent conservative Texas and Republicans alike. I'm not just representing those that support me. I'm representing those that don't support me. I'm representing those that voted against me. I'm representing those that weren't even in town or in the district to vote for me. The folks that are going to move in after after this election cycle is over. I have to represent everybody. And the only way you do that is remaining engaged.
Okay, and I'm going to throw you this curveball. You say that, and so I'm assuming you mean that through town hall meetings and such like that. Let's say at the town hall meetings you start coming, Van Zandt County, and all of a sudden you see that your district is asking you to do something that goes against your Democratic beliefs and all that, but the masses are saying this is what we want. How do you approach that that situation when the people out here? I mean, you're a Democrat. To get elected out of Van Zandt County would be, a feat in and of itself. So when you get up there, there's going to be things that you and your constituents being elected out of a Republican county are not going to see eye to eye on. Sure. So your constituents are going to say, hey, I don't like that. As my representative, I want you to carry this out, as opposed to what you might feel personally.
But
how would you handle that?
Would you not toe the party line if there was enough people that said,
yeah, yes. Exactly. Would you say, hey guys, I'm sorry I'm pissing you off over there, but my crew over here is saying we got to be doing this.
No,
so
absolutely not.
I'm
and
jump over
I've
there.
said this before, and I will happily say it again, because that questions also come up in Democratic spaces as well. I did a forum in Plano a few months ago, and one of the questions, it was my favorite question out of the entire thing, is where is the line that you would go against the Democratic Party? And my answer is simple. Number one, I'm happy that a lot of the things that I'm running on, the Democratic Party supports, because I didn't know that it was one of the, the hot button topics of conversations of, funding public schools or cost of living and stuff. Like, I was talking about that because I live here and I've been here the whole time. This isn't just something to talk about. It's my life. So I'm glad that on that, the Republican Party and I agree, but they agree with me as a Texan and a constituent. I'm not agreeing with them for the party. My line is with the people. Okay. My loyalty is to the people over the party.
Okay, and what you're sitting here, and that's easy to say in front of this crowd and a couple rednecks right
I'll
here.
say it everywhere I go.
But when you get into office, let's say your goal meets accomplishment, and you're up there. Now you're going to have these folks, especially being from Texas. You're going to have a lot of the pressure from the higher ups that come in there, and they're going to come in to a green senator like you, and start to say, "Hey, guy, this waffling ain't going to happen. This message cannot come out of your mouth. We need you because we are a collective. We are the Democrats. We got to beat the Republicans." And you know just as well as I do that conversation is going to be had if you take top billing on this.
Yes.
So when you get up there and you've got the guys, hey, I can slide $150,000 into your campaign finance, but I and your constituents down here saying, hey man, nuh-uh, we don't like that. We don't like that. We gave you a shot. You come in as a Democrat. We got your name and come back over here to our voters. At that point, do you look at the guy over here? Because, I mean, you could be shooting yourself in the foot, Republican or Democrat. If you come in there and voted in a Democrat and say you're in Austin and you come in as a Republican and you start going against the Republican Party to appease a Democratic following, you're going to get ostracized, trashed, all that stuff. Is that the heat you're ready to take? To support the people here in Van Zandt County?
100%, yes. I'm fully aware of what I'm about to be walking into. I mean, without having the first person experience of being in it myself, I know the risk. I know the pressure awareness. Yeah, I have enough awareness to know what sort of pressures might come with like being on, Team Democrat or Team People. And I say it everywhere that I go. I'm glad that the Democrat Party aligns with what I'm trying to do or how I'm trying to represent people. And I'm glad that their priority, at least as I understand it in 2026, is to help our communities in these certain ways. And again, it's no offense to the Republican Party. I've gone to their spaces. I will continue to go to their spaces. I have yet to hear.
Look at me too, so they don't accuse me of being a Democrat.
Bert, it's already out there. You're already out there.
Yeah, like I have yet to hear them talk in their spaces about issues that actually are affecting everyday people. They talk a lot about preserving culture. They talk a lot about, fear mongering around Sharia law or men and women's bathrooms and all these other things. I'm trying to make it easier for you to pay your bills. I'm trying to offer your kids and your grandkids a better education. I'm trying to expand healthcare if I'm put in this position of power, if I'm able to advocate on your behalf on the Senate floor. That's what I'm trying to do. By the way, your culture is safe as long as you keep it alive and well. And if you're welcoming, I will more than happily, come in and participate or go to church with you all. Like I've never hid behind the fact that I'm a Christian or my faith or anything like that. But that's not what I'm trying to accomplish, is saying like, hey, we have to preserve our way of life. People preserve the way of life. Policy preserves healthcare. Policy preserves education. Policy keeps your gas bill down, your electricity bill down. Like that's what policy. Policy keeps your water clean, right? Those sorts of things. So if I were elected, I know that the pressure would come, and I know that somebody might sway me to just vote party for the sake of voting party. My loyalty lies with the people, whether they voted for me or not, whether they support me or not. I will do my best to represent everyone and in a way that is conscious in everyone's betterment. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and of course we are wrapping up it's already 12. What we're going to do is we're going to bypass the weather update. Everybody's got a cell phone. I'll just tell you, I'm not a meteorologist. Step outside. If your hair gets wet, it's raining. If your ears turn red, it's hot. So anyway, y'all just keep your eyes forward. What I want to do is, Miss Edie, I'm going to give you an opportunity to wrap up your side of it real quick, and then we're going to let him do the final wrap up. Ryan, did you have anything else you wanted to broach before we call this a show?
No, I'm good. I really appreciated both y'all. It was very informative.
Thanks. I appreciate being here.
And Miss Edie, I know that we allowed Mr. Colbert to go on, but he's a busy man running for a big seat. We want to have you on soon because I know that you've got plenty to tell us and teach us and learn us, and so we definitely want to welcome that. But today, out of what we've talked about, go ahead and give me your little 1-minute wrap up.
Well, I can't. I haven't had the chance to talk about the local issue, the Precinct 2 commissioner, but I think that I'll do that in the future here.
Yes, ma'am.
And
And
I
property
want to
tax.
say something about this guy. He brings to mind, you know, the thing about courage is in the face of fear or confrontation or the problem, you go ahead and do it anyway. That's this guy. You do what's right anyway, and that's this guy.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Keenan, I appreciate you being on the show. Like I said, it's been a pleasure getting to know you personally. I've enjoyed speaking with you. Of course, we only had 2 hours here. There's a lot more that we'd love to talk
please
about
invite me
with
back.
you.
I'd love to come back and do the show.
You've got an open seat anytime you're in the area or halftime. Of course, you and I will be talking after the show. I'd love to set something up for a follow-up. One of the things that I did want to throw out there, though, you and I spoke. You're open to a roundtable with Bob Hall in the seat next to you, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm putting it out there, Senator Hall. We're inviting you to come sit down and join the conversation.
Come on, Bob. Let's talk, man. It'll be fun. I'm telling you, it'll be a good time. You should be here on this couch.
I got an incident report about that.
But as you know, and this isn't something that we're just doing to do. We do that. I mean, this all got started. Him and Dan Morrow were running for the same spot, and we had a little one-on-one with them, and this really launched. And of course, from that point forward, we've had the roundtables. And I believe if you put people side by side and you take the distance and anonymity out of it, you start to have real conversations. So when you have two people sitting there having a civil conversation, and you can feel, I mean, you put off energies.
Yeah.
And you can, if you stay in the positive energy, sort of like my wife's car, when you're driving, it's got a green light on the right around the speedometer there, that when you're in the prime gas getting zone, it stays really bright green. And I sit there and I pedal that old gas pedal. It's like I'm playing a game, you know, that old bubble game where you blew the ball up into the net. It's sort of what I'm always doing, feathering. Well, I believe if you can sit next to somebody and feel their energies, and you can feel their heart, that the conversation is going to stay civil. Now, don't get me wrong. You get up at the national level, that's just a freak show from the word go. So we're not even going to get there. But right around here, we want to keep it civil, and that's what we've always done. So we throw the invite out there to Senator Hall. Let y'all go toe-to-toe. So we're not having, you know, today we did a little bit of speaking, and he come into question on some things. We want him to come in and answer it. And he knows he's always got an invite. He's been on the show a couple times, and we always appreciate him. Too bad we don't have the comment section. He'd have probably been in the comment section over there. So like I said, the invite's out there. We'll make it official. But we definitely want to...
Can I throw something out on that? Like, and I hope this is a clippable moment. Bob Hall, please, I want to have a conversation with you on this couch on behalf of the people of this district, right here in the very county that you live in here in Van Zant. Like, whenever you're available, I will make myself available. I want to have that conversation on behalf of the people that hopefully we both care about so very much. So if there is anybody out there that would like to tune into this, please share that or get that to him or email it to him or whatever it is. But you can let him know that, you know, Bert and myself or EDIE or anyone else in this room, we want to have that conversation because the people need to know what's most important and who's trying to run to represent them to solve those issues. So I say let's do it. I hope you're in too.
There's only one thing wrong with that, and if you correct that one little thing, we'll call it a day. You got to say right here on VZTV.
Right here on VZTV. Right here on VZTV. Let's do it.
VZTV.
Right there. We'll see y'all tomorrow, guys.